our idea. So, neurons are nerve cells. They have the ability to produce what we call an action potential. If you think about, for example, skeletal muscle movement, for that skeletal muscle to move, we have a nerve attached to it. And when, let's say, for example, we're going to write something on a piece of paper, there will be parts of our brain that begin to work, send that nerve signal down to the muscles that need to do that and create that action. So we will learn how we get to have an action potential. The parts of a nerve cell, they're going to contain a cell body, which will be their nucleus. They will have what's termed an axon. It's a process that will extend from the nerve cell body. It will help conduct impulses, meaning getting ready to pass materials from that cell body. Usually, there's only one axon. Now, on that cell body, it will look like it's going to have little branches coming off of the other end of the cell body. Those are termed dendrites. The way that, and when we look at the picture, okay, the dendrites are receiving of an impulse. It gets processed in the cell body, travels down an axon to terminal ends which meet something, for example, another nerve. The types that we have, multipolar, bipolar, unipolar. This, and I don't know if I'm going to show this video because I'm sure it's going to get into great detail. We'll probably save this for that actual chapter. But this is what we typically see for a nerve cell. We typically see the nerve cell body with it's got a pretty large nucleus. This yellow part that they're representing is the axon that would be coming off of the nerve cell body. These little branches extending off are our dendrites. So when we look at the one termed multipolar, which would be the most prevalent in the body, okay, this is ones that they look like. Now, because they have to take information from the cell body and pass it along the axon, some of these have a fatty tissue wrapping called the Schwann cell, all right? But we'll get more in detail about that. When we look at unipolar, okay, the axon's just in a different fashion extending from the nerve cell body. Now, once again, we'll get into what neuroglia is, okay? So we'll definitely move into that in those chapters. Neuroglia, when you hear this term, this is telling you it's a glial cell, and what you'll begin to learn is that neurons, because neurons are our nerve tissue, they need to be protected, okay? And a glial cell is a way that we get protection. So they are support cells. They are going to help get nutrients in, waste out. So glial cells are support cells. They'll help nourish, protect, and insulate. for the, I think this is the last part of the chapter, getting into some of the membranes of the body. The tissue membranes we have: mucus, serous, synovial. A mucus membrane. This is what we're going to find lining anything that opens to the exterior environment. Respiratory tract, digestive tract, okay? They secrete mucus. That means that their cells are going to have the goblet cells. You got, and that's a really good review for the test, okay? Because remember, goblet cells are the ones that produce mucus. Respiratory, digestive, urinary, reproductive systems. Because each of these systems has an opening to the exterior environment. If it is a serous membrane, you will sometimes see it as mesothelium. This is going to line cavities that do not go to the exterior environment. Your thoracic, because you'll see it with the heart, the lungs, and peritoneal, which is the abdomen. All right? A synovial membrane. Think about your knees. When those two bones articulate with that meniscus in the knees, they are encapsulated in this synovial joint. And the reason for that, when you look at, for example, the knees are doing a lot of movement, okay? They take a lot of damage. They have to support a lot of weight, okay? The structure that is created in this joint capsule allows for those bones to move, allows for the meniscus to be there, but it provides some fluid, the synovial fluid in the knee, which is hopefully helping with like cushioning, bringing in nutrients, getting rid of waste, okay? But it's also one of the most damaged areas of the body. But when you hear synovial, this is telling us that it's a joint that's in a capsule, and there's fluid that's present. The tissue damage that can occur when we breach our bodies, meaning there's damage, all right? A lot of it being a breach through this integumentary system, okay? But things can happen internally also that can create breaches. But for the most part, when we think about the body and its damage that can take place, we tend to think about something that creates a breach from the internal environment to the outside environment. And when it happens, the body has a specific way it wants to respond and create healing. So, the immune response to tissue damage, it will get some redness, some heat, some swelling, some pain, and some disturbed function. Now, I think the way that the pictures represent this, and let me just double check. Yeah, the way that the picture in the text is going to represent this, it's going to use the example of a splinter. Now, granted, tiny, all right, but we all know breaches can be much bigger, okay? But the response is the same. It's going to respond with the redness, the heat, the swelling, the pain, the disturbed function. It is going to involve histamine, kinins, prostaglandins, leukotrienes. It's going to create a pain receptor to give us the sensation of pain. It's going to make blood vessels be more permeable. We're going to see white blood cells come to the area. So anytime we get a breach from the outside environment to the inside environment, our goal, or I should say the body's goal, the goal of the body, keep out any type of pathogens. Keep out toxins. Do not allow what's out here to enter here. Okay? So, if we look at the example being given, we've talked about the tissues that exist. Okay? Epitheliums, the connectives, and so forth. So we have a splinter that has breached our skin epithelium, all right? Now note, one of the things that happens, this breaches capillaries, which means it breaches blood vessels. The body wants to respond. So the splinter causes the damage. When that damage occurs, this introduces bacteria. It could be bacteria, it could be viruses, whatever's on the outside, okay? So, we get some chemical mediators. They're going to recognize there's been a breach. We're going to see inflammation come into play, the immune system. We're going to have to get certain chemicals activated. We're going to have to make sure that the blood vessels that were broken, we repair them. So what we're going to see is traveling in blood vessels and along membranes of these areas, we already have white blood cells, the phagocytic cells, the mast cells. These are already available. Their jobs that they can do, they begin to start healing almost immediately. So we will see that capillaries will increase their permeability, letting more stuff get out. See how they're trying to show the white blood cells moving out? Okay? Because the white blood cells need to eat up those bacteria. So, white blood cells move out of the capillaries. They're going to go to the place where the bacteria are trying to get in. They begin to eat, phagocytize those bacteria, and then any other debris that might be present. Now, as that takes place, now think about a splinter. You get the splinter, you most likely pull it out, okay? You've now got the little bit of a breach, and did you feel any pain? Most likely, yeah. Something alerted you to that it was there. Once you look at it, did you notice any redness or any little blood that might have come out with it? Okay, that means you have broken the blood vessels, and because you broke through the skin, anything that was out here on the skin is now trying to get in. So we get that inflammation because these chemicals and these cells are coming in to help. Okay, so we've got this whole process. Works the same every time. And the goal is for all those little cells that are working, come in, fight anything that's trying to get in.